Hold on to your seats, folks, because you've just stumbled upon the spiciest corner of the internet, C News. Fire, the place where we serve all the hottest takes, all the juiciest gossip, and the kind of truth that even the tabloids are too scared to touch. If you're tired of the same old boring news, you've come to the right place. Here, we dive deep, crack a few jokes, and make sure you never miss a beat. So, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Don't let FOMO take over. You don't want to miss a single fiery moment. Join the C News family, where we bring the heat, the facts, and a whole lot of sass. Fire, hit subscribe, buckle up, and let's make sure your news feed is always worth checking. #SpicerContently. James O'Brien had always been known for his razor-sharp wit and unflinching commitment to uncovering the truth. His radio show was a platform where he never shied away from tackling the big issues, no matter how uncomfortable they made the powers that be. But on that fateful day, as the headlines flashed across the screen and the public awaited the next explosive chapter in the ongoing saga surrounding Harry and Meghan, O'Brien would prove that even the most powerful figures could be brought down by the truth, no matter how much they tried to hide it. The day began like any other, with O'Brien casually sipping his coffee in the studio, preparing for his usual morning show. Little did he know that he was about to take on one of the most significant stories in recent British media history. His guests had arrived, and the air was filled with the usual buzz of anticipation. But as O'Brien skimmed through the latest news updates, one headline caught his eye, and the wheels in his mind began to turn. James had always suspected that there was more to the story surrounding the hacking scandal, more than the public was being led to believe. The press, particularly tabloids like The Sun and News of the World, had spent years using questionable tactics to obtain private information about celebrities, politicians, and royals. But it wasn't until the royal couple, Harry and Meghan, decided to step away from their royal duties that the full scale of the media's misconduct began to unravel. And at the center of it all, seemingly untouchable, was Piers Morgan, a man whose career was built on stirring up controversy and making enemies in the highest circles. O'Brien had followed the twists and turns of the scandal with a growing sense of unease. The phone hacking scandal, once an issue buried beneath layers of media manipulation and corporate interests, had suddenly resurfaced with a vengeance. And now, with a fresh batch of evidence in his hands, O'Brien was about to expose Piers Morgan's role in the entire mess. It began with a tip-off. One of his trusted sources, a former journalist who had worked in the industry during the height of the hacking scandals, reached out with information that would shake the media world to its core. The source, who insisted on staying anonymous for fear of retribution, claimed that Piers Morgan had been far more involved in the phone hacking practices than he had ever admitted in public. The allegations were explosive. Morgan, it was said, not only knew about the hacking but actively participated in it. The story was a bombshell. For years, Morgan had denied any wrongdoing, going so far as to laugh off accusations that he had been complicit in the phone hacking activities that had rocked the British tabloids. His public stance had always been that he was a mere figurehead, unaware of the underhanded methods used by his staff. But the evidence O'Brien was presented with told a different story, and it was time for him to dig deeper. By the time O'Brien aired the first segment on his show, the tension was palpable. The conversation that followed was more intense than any of his previous shows. As he detailed the timeline of events, he pulled no punches. He recounted how Morgan had been the editor of News of the World and the Daily Mirror at critical moments in the hacking scandal, a time when journalists under his command had allegedly been intercepting private voicemails and hacking into personal phones. The connections between Morgan and the people involved in these illegal activities were clearer than ever before, and it was impossible to ignore the mounting evidence. The public was riveted. It wasn't just about the revelation that Morgan might have been complicit in the hacking. It was about the broader implications for the British media industry as a whole. The media, which had for years painted itself as a protector of the people's right to know, was suddenly exposed as a corrupt institution willing to trample on privacy, ethics, and law to sell a story. And nowhere was this more evident than in the media's treatment of Harry and Meghan. O'Brien's investigation quickly shifted focus to the royal couple. Harry and Meghan's departure from the royal family had been overshadowed by endless negative press, particularly from Morgan, who had made a career out of mocking and ridiculing them. Morgan had repeatedly targeted Meghan, calling her everything from a diva to a hypocrite, while Harry was portrayed as a petulant, spoiled royal who couldn't handle the pressures of life in the public eye. The couple's desire for privacy was constantly belittled. with Morgan himself declaring that it was impossible for anyone in the public eye to expect such a thing. But now, with this new information coming to light, it became clear that the venomous coverage of Harry and Meghan wasn't just personal animus, it was part of a larger campaign to discredit them. The same media outlets that had been implicated in the hacking scandal were now targeting the couple with a relentless barrage of misinformation. O'Brien wasted no time in connecting the dots. The media's obsession with destroying Harry and Meghan's reputations was inextricably linked to their own self-preservation. If they could demonize the couple, they could distract from the real scandals, the illegal activities that were slowly being exposed. As O'Brien continued to unpack the details of the scandal, he also highlighted the hypocrisy at play. Piers Morgan had long built his career on a brand of aggressive, no-holds-barred commentary, but now he was being revealed as a key player in one of the biggest privacy invasions of the 21st century. His own role in the hacking scandal could no longer be ignored, and as more and more details emerged, it became increasingly difficult for him to maintain his stance as the moral arbiter of public life. The revelations didn't stop there. O'Brien's deep dive uncovered further connections between Morgan and senior figures within Rupert Murdoch's media empire, where the hacking was said to have taken place. There were phone records, emails, and testimonies from former employees who had worked under Morgan's leadership, all pointing to the same conclusion: Piers Morgan had not just turned a blind eye to the illegal activities, he had been an active participant. The question now was how far the corruption ran within the tabloid world, and whether those responsible would ever truly face justice. The fallout was swift. Public opinion of Morgan, already divided, began to turn sharply against him. His loyal followers, who had hung on every word he said, started to question their hero. Media outlets that had once stood by him began to distance themselves, unsure of how to handle the growing scandal. Morgan, ever the provocateur, went on the defensive, but the evidence against him was too overwhelming to dismiss. He tried to downplay the accusations, claiming that they were part of a smear campaign, but it was clear that the tide had turned. Meanwhile, the public reaction was one of both anger and vindication. Many felt that Harry and Meghan had been right all along. This was more than just about the couple's desire for privacy. It was about a system that had repeatedly violated their rights and sought to destroy their lives for the sake of profit. As O'Brien continued to expose the truth, more and more people began to rally around the Sussexes, calling for accountability and demanding that those responsible for the scandal be held to task. The saga reached its climax when a major inquiry was launched into the involvement of senior media figures, including Piers Morgan, in the phone hacking scandal. Public pressure mounted, and Morgan's empire began to crumble. What had started as a story about royal drama had morphed into a full-scale media reckoning, and James O'Brien had played a pivotal role in bringing it all to light. In the end, Piers Morgan's role in the hacking scandal was undeniable. The truth had finally been revealed, and it wasn't just about exposing one man, it was about exposing an entire industry that had placed profit above ethics, privacy, and the well-being of those it claimed to serve. And through it all, Harry and Meghan's truth had finally been revealed, too, not just as victims of media intrusion, but as symbols of a larger fight against a corrupt system. James O'Brien had done what so many before him had failed to do. He had exposed the powerful, and in doing so, he had given a voice to those who had been silenced for far too long.